There might be some who think, what are you doing this for? It's too early. It's not even December 31st yet. To which I think to myself, fuck you! Exactly. All right, so The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, right? I tell you what, I am kind of a Zelda nerd, but not really. I mean, I'm just an older guy. So I remember playing the original Legend of Zelda, when it came out for the NES. I remember seeing the commercials on the television, cheek tights, all that nonsense. But, there's all kinds of titles I never played for it. I never played Majora's Mask. I never played Twilight Princess. Never played Skyward Sword. All kinds of ones on the Game Boy Advance and whatnot. Never did play them. So I've been very selective with the ones that I played. And the ones that I did play, were very important. They had an impact on me. The original Zelda as a kid growing up, first one. The Ocarina of Time, played that at pretty much my first place outside of my parents' house, when I was in my early 20s, late teens. And Breath of the Wild also came at a very challenging time in my life. And I tell you what, I didn't really know what to expect from it, and it exceeded all expectations. I had no idea that this was going to be the kind of Zelda game I was going to play. The open world and just the amount of time I spent with it, the amount of tinkering, the idea that I could just do whatever I wanted to do in a Zelda game. I guess that's kind of existed before, but not like this. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, again, there's enough reviews out there and there's enough testimonials out there to go on and on and on and on about it. But coming from someone who's been a Zelda fan and a slight Zelda geek, Breath of the Wild is by far the most memorable to me, really, of all of them. I can go back and remember the original Zelda 2 on the Game Boy. There's all kinds that I still have right up here, no problem. But Breath of the Wild, I think, really is the most memorable. And for a Zelda game to do that, with the history that series has, is a testament, I think, to how good it is. Beautiful day. The Last Guardian is another one on the list, simply because of the soul of the game. I could tell that, there was soul behind every piece of it, and especially the beast. I could just kind of sense this emotion coming out of yourself, the beast, and the environments. I really enjoyed the way they told a story with these tall towers and these ancient structures. You wondered, there used to be a civilization that lived there once, and I would always try to picture that, like, who built this? Who lived there? What were they doing? Why did they build it this way? And thinking about that as I would, Speaking of, hey, man, he just passed gas right in front of me. Thankfully, the beast never did that. Either way, The Last Guardian was kind of a spiritual successor to Ico and Shadow of the Colossus, which is something else entirely. But again, I enjoyed it mainly for the soul it exuded. And I felt every piece of it, and I felt for the beast. I felt for my character. And I almost felt bad when some of these environments would come crashing down, for ruining these ancient structures that, a civilization or whoever spent so much time and effort building. The ending itself, I'd say the last 25 minutes plus the ending, I would argue is one of the best, if not the best ending ever in all video games. I mean, I didn't shed a tear. It wasn't like that kind of an emotionally uplifting thing. I mean, it was, but just as far as, grabbing me from the heart and just pulling me in and making me really give a damn, which I already did, but I mean, I really gave the game clout. It almost felt like some kind of historical canon. The Last Guardian did a wonderful job at skipping the whole this is a video game thing, and actually a piece of art and almost a piece of history. So I appreciate it grandly for that. And again, if you had any love for Ico or Shadow of the Colossus, The Last Guardian is a must-play. So Limbo is one that was kind of a surprise. I was not expecting something like that. At the time it came out, everything was, high-end 3D. Let's show off what our console can do. Xbox Live was out, and we were starting to get some, some retro flavor to a point. Some older games were being re-released, so it wasn't, that much of a surprise. It wasn't like, one of a kind for the entire year. No, that kind of a theme had been going for a minute. But it was, aside from, retro games and things of that nature, plugging in the Saturn or the Genesis or something like that, devoting myself to a game of that type, especially one that wasn't, you know, multiplayer or co-op. That was new, and the atmosphere and the tone and all of it just grabbed me from the heart and just took me along for the ride. I thought the game excelled at telling a story without having to have a big plot. Its settings and its style all kind of lent themselves to story, and from beginning to end, there was a sense of it was solid, but there was still a sense of mystery to it. And the enigma of the game as it was, it told a story, and it told a very dark one, a very deep one, and it also had some humor with some of the ridiculously silly and gory deaths. And again, the graphics and the way it was laid out, that's a kind of world that I've imagined myself in, actually, several times. Just kind of sitting, I fall asleep thinking to myself, living in a world like that. Almost smelling it, enjoying it. So again, Limbo, I was really glad to look up and find out it did come out in 2010. It didn't come out in like December 2009 and excuse itself from the list. When we were tasked with coming up for a top 10 games in the last 10 years, I was delighted to find out that Limbo counts, because I wanted it to be included. The game really meant that much to me. I could go on and on and on and review it, but let's just say top 10 games in the last 10 years, one of them has to be Limbo for too many reasons. But Limbo, incredible. Are you ready to talk about Portal 2 yet? You got to go through this thing to get there. Hey, the hell? You might not know this, but long before Steam came along, Valve was in charge of pretty much making some of the best video games in the world. Whether it be the entirety of the Half-Life and Half-Life 2 series, the Left 4 Dead series, and the Portal series. Portal 1 was just a mind bender. No one had seen anything like it before. It was a first-person shooter to a point, but the puzzle aspect of it, again, if you played Portal, you know what it's all about. Portal 2 just threw another piece of candy into the bowl and made it that much sweeter. Portal 2 is very memorable for many reasons, but one of the main reasons is because of its humor, because of its design, and it was pretty sly. It was very clever. It had like a nice sense of humor to it, so you were supposed to take it seriously, but not really. It even had some Easter eggs in there for the Half-Life crowd, people like me. So again, Portal 2 just took everything that the first Portal was and made it better. The beginning, the ending, the middle, the third, three quarters of the way through it, 1/3 of the way through it. There was never a boring part of the game. The co-op was lots of fun when you were sober, and I can't see how it wouldn't make someone's top 10 list, because it was Valve at their height. Unfortunately, Valve doesn't really make video games anymore. They pretty much do the Steam thing, and I find that disappointing. I'm still one of those guys that thinks Half-Life 3 will happen someday, but in the meantime, it's fun to go into the Orange Box or go into Portal 2 and really remember what these guys were about and what they could pull off and what they could do, because there's no other development house like them on Earth. At least there wasn't. So Portal 2, that's one that has to be on the list. If you haven't played it, then you need to. And if it's not on your list, it better be on the honorable mentions. Dead Space 2. Some might think that's an odd game to put on the list, but I'm an odd guy, so what the hell. I played it when it came out. I didn't play the first Dead Space. I didn't like the character design. I didn't like how it was like this, depressive goth kind of a, angry metal character design. I just didn't like that. I was like, no one would look like that. That's this silent protagonist. I wasn't buying it, but I read enough about it and saw enough about it. But by the time the sequel came out, I was like, let's give it a shot. I read some reviews and thought I'd give it a round, and I tell you what, man, it was actually a damn good game. It did provide some incredible graphics, some truly imaginative and creative settings, and the weapon construction system. It might have had that. I think it was 3 that had that kind of a find this weapon or buy it kind of a thing, and I left that alone. But again, Dead Space 2 was really neat. It had a Again, a setting. It had an outer space atmosphere and some gameplay mechanics that really kind of fit me. You know, the kind of stuff I like to do, the kind of things I like to play. Similar to Alien Isolation, it did kind of have a sense of loneliness to it, but more so, you know, more action was involved in that game, and terror. I mean, not just anxiety and, you know, solitude, but true terror. And again, it had a couple of jump scares and things like that, but that's not what really, you know, I thought thought to be terrifying. Terrifying to me was the opportunity to imagine that this might actually happen. This was real. And the story of the marker, and, you know, seeing all these thousands of bodies all piled into one slimy, you know, biological mechanism. It just, I played it at the right time. I played it at the right time, and it fit. And I thought it was excellent. I thought it was an excellent title. And I'm sure there's all kinds of games out there I've missed. But as far as top 10 in the last 10 years, yeah, it'll make the list, because I feel that some people underrate it. And for me, for the kind of stuff I like to see and do and play and feel and imagine, Dead Space 2 nailed it. They really did a good job with that. So, again, is it odd? Yes, so am I. So, if you haven't played it, give it a shot. But I don't know if I'll ever play it again, but I remember it. I remember it very, very clearly. And I went from start to finish and got everything done that I possibly could. And for a person like me to play a game from start to finish and have it up here like that, that means that it's important to me. So it will remain that way. Mass Effect 2 falls in that category of games that are very good sequels, or games that demonstrate how sequels are supposed to be made. The first Mass Effect obviously was, you know, a game changer. It was a winner. BioWare, I mean, here we go. Science fiction, perfect. But it wasn't a perfect game. The atmosphere they delivered was perfect. Everything that we wanted kind of fixed got fixed in Mass Effect 2. The script, the storyline, and especially the settings and the atmospheres were all there. I mean, I still compare stuff to it. Like, I'll see a scene in a movie or something like that, or I'll be like, hey, that looks like Mass Effect, or I'll see some strange lights somewhere in Europe or whatever, and be like, that reminds me of something out of Mass Effect. And it had such an effect on me that it follows me and continues to follow me for the rest of my life. Again, the characters, the weaponry, the design, the programming, all of it just came to fruition. It really worked out well for me and lots of others. Sometimes people think, oh, a game is really popular, everyone loves it, so they kind of eschew it. Where for me, I thought it was just an absolute winner, and easily falls in the top 10. It was kind of difficult to go between that and Fallout 3, but Fallout 3 did not come out 2010 or post-2010. But again, Mass Effect 2, enough can't be said about it. Definitely falls in my top 10 of the year, because again, all those reasons. But again, that atmosphere, that setting, I felt like I was there, and that's a place where I kind of, you know, fell asleep, falling asleep dreaming about, I wonder what it'd be like if I were here. And Mass Effect kind of brought that to me, like a few other titles did. So, good stuff, man. And of course, we're also going to talk about Super Mario 3D World. Bad impression. Mario 3D World was actually the first one I played in high def. The Galaxy games were pretty cool, but I really never got attached to them. You know, they never really Velcroed me in. Whereas Mario 3D World, I had a Wii U, and I had to have it. From word of mouth and through other people, it was a game I had to have, and man, am I glad I got it. First of all, you know, Mario having the cat suit is a winner. Speaking of cats, hold on, look, there he is. Hey, what's up, butthead? Meow. Anyway, Mario 3D World. The design of it, I mean, I can go on and review it. I won't. Mario 3D World is probably one of my favorite Mario titles ever. It's up there with like Mario 64 and Mario 3. I mean, it's up there in the slight handful of like the best Mario titles Nintendo ever produced. I'm especially a fan of its soundtrack, that jazzy soundtrack that it had. You know, it traversed many genres, but the soundtrack to Mario 3D World was impeccable. And I'm proud of my taste in music, so I might even include that. But Mario 3D World was probably my favorite title on the Wii U. I went through and made sure I completed it, and I got every little level and every last this, and I had to have it all done, all complete. And I was rewarded for it with a fabulous ending, and with just the feeling in my heart and in my head that, hey, this is a title that, was given to me. This was made for me. And, I finished it. I felt like Nintendo was really, I mean, not just for me, but I was one of those people they were making a Mario game for. And they got it, they nailed it. Hand in glove, it worked perfectly. So Mario 3D World, it was one of the maybe 20 Wii U titles I ever picked up. But I don't have it anymore, unfortunately. I let all that stuff go. There was a weird time that happened, so there was some stuff I kind of had to let go. But I focus on Sega now these days. But Mario 3D World, I tell you what, arguably the best of the bunch. And Mario in high def, are you kidding? With Nintendo behind the wheel, forget it. It's got to be in the top 10, and it's not only in the top 10 of the decade, but in the top 10, maybe even here and here. That's important. BioShock Infinite. Well, I'll try. We won't talk about the first BioShock or the second BioShock and what they meant, but I played BioShock Infinite in my very late 30s. And while you're ignoring that stain on the ceiling back there, listen to me. Because some people didn't like it, but I feel like it's one of the testaments of the series. Let me tell you why. That sounds like me doing a video review. It's not a review. BioShock Infinite, again, was one of those games that came out at just the right time and had a very deep effect on me. One of the things that BioShock Infinite did was it introduced a lot of characters that reminded me of real people. I knew these people, like whether it be Comstock or what have you. I seem to know people like that in my life. As I've gotten older, I could compare, oh, I know that girl. Oh, I know that guy. Oh, I know them. Yeah, this situation. Is it realistic? No, it's a video game. It's BioShock. But I thought it was fabulous. And I liked the challenge of it. I loved the atmosphere and the setting of it and, the imagination of it. I especially loved, those hooks on the top of the homes and whatnot reminded me of Amsterdam, which I've been lucky enough to be there. So there was like a strange, personal, historical resonance with it. But BioShock Infinite, is it my favorite of the series? No. But it's the only one that came out post-2010. And I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was a wonderful story. It had a good amount of mystery and some cryptic dialogue and things like that in it. So BioShock Infinite was one of those. I thought it was a fitting end to the series, so to speak. I know they're still maybe working on a new one. But as far as 1, 2, and I thought it was better than 2. I really did. Few things will eclipse the first. But BioShock Infinite I thought was right up my alley. And it gave me everything I wanted, and especially the depth of emotion and the depth of the characters that I feel like I knew those people. There's a reason for it. It wasn't just in the face. It wasn't just, some physical representation. It was an emotional and a vocal representation. And that struck a chord with me, and that's what makes it relatively unforgettable, especially among the last 10 years. Again, I know some folks disagree with me, but that's the beauty of being an adult gamer. You're allowed to have disagreements, talk about them, and enjoy them. So, BioShock Infinite, there we go. Mario Kart 8. It's not often that I have reverence for a racing game, but believe it or not, Mario Kart 8 was the second Mario Kart I've ever played. I really never got into them. In this case, good friends of mine were playing it, and with the online capabilities, I figured, what the hell? I had some money, and I picked it up, and I absolutely loved it. It inspired me in many other creative ways with my music and artwork and stuff like that. So, again, it wouldn't have been as important had I not been able to just spend hour after hour after hour after hour playing it, playing it online and getting good at it. I actually got relatively, decent at the game. I'm playing it by myself. I really only did that to learn how to play it and get better at it and learn some courses. Other than that, I can't tell you how many days I'd be at work and I'd be itching to get home. So I, get home, get my shoes off, whatever, and turn on my Wii U and start playing. It was, for weeks, really. All I could think about was getting home, playing Mario Kart, and going over races and tracks in my head. So in the last 10 years, Mario Kart 8 is one of the few racing titles or racing-esque titles I've played. And easily fits into my top 10 just because of the memories and just because of the yearning to go after it and play it and get better at it. Alien Isolation, yeah? You might find that one to be a strange addition to the list. Alien Isolation, the top 10 games of the decade. We've got that one on there. So the series means the world to me. I can't tell you how many times I've, seen each film countless times. But Alien Isolation felt like canon. It felt like it was a part of that universe. Was it a perfect game? No. But did it put me in that universe? Did it put me in that world? Yes. And I'd always wanted to be a part of it. I'd always wanted to know what that kind of a future was like, what that kind of a universe and that kind of a quantum reality was like. And here I was finally taking part in it. The design was just impeccable. All the homages were properly placed. And I had a wonderful time playing it. And I enjoy games that give you that sense of isolation, that solitary fear. I'm not talking about, jump scares and crap like that. I'm talking more about, that look over your shoulder, that something's watching you kind of a thing. That type of anxiety, the game provided wonderfully. And I mean, I actually kind of like that, as long as it's a game and not in real life. But Alien Isolation put me in that universe again. And again, it's way better than some of the other films that came out. And I honestly consider it to be part of the story, part of the universe. That is Ripley's daughter, and this is what happened. So I guess it would take an Alien fan like me, an Alien nut like me, to really put that on the list. But because, again, I'm a student of the franchise and a student of the films and huge, huge fan of Ridley Scott and James Cameron, it had to be included. So if you haven't played it, play it. If you played it and didn't like it, sorry. But it's easily one of my favorites, and I'll recommend it to anybody. I want to thank everybody who has helped make 2019 even that much more enjoyable. The first half of the year was kind of a trip through hell. The second half of the year has been relatively heavenly. And I'm finally allowed to kind of enjoy my hobby and enjoy what I'm doing and share it, which I should have been doing a long time ago, I know. But I'm doing it now, and I'm looking forward to 2020 more than you can possibly imagine. Happy New Year, they say. I say happy new decade. So thanks to all my friends, family, followers, everybody. 2020 is going to be really good, and most of it is thanks to you. So thanks for watching, and keep collecting.